So how many of you have heard about the Civil Resolution Tribunal before and have some general understanding of how it works? Show of hands.
That's two questions I can answer.
Okay, well.
I've heard of it, but
You've
I
heard
have
of
no
it.
idea what it does.
Okay, how many people have heard of it? Okay, that's good. We'll start there. So I'm going to give you a really brief overview of how it works because there's a good number of you who don't seem to have been exposed to that before, which is totally understandable. And then I'm going to tell you some of the things that are new since maybe last you heard about the Civil Resolution Tribunal. So what I was saying is I'm going to give you a bit of a just Cole's Notes version of what it is and how it works, and then go over some of the things that might have changed in the last year since we began accepting strata property disputes. And I understand from Sean there'll be a sizable amount of time for questions as well, so happy to answer any questions about the tribunal you have at the end. So the Civil Resolution Tribunal is a bit unique. As Max said from the outset, it's the first online tribunal in the world that we know of, certainly the first in Canada. And what that does is it makes all of you guinea pigs in co-partners, I would rather say, in this grand experiment of online dispute resolution in the public justice sector. So the thing that makes the CRT unique, one of them, is that predominantly we provide justice services online. So our default communication method is email. Our default way of communicating and mediating and adjudicating disputes is online. However, we do offer mail and telephone-based services for people who are not comfortable using computers. What we found, shockingly, for us anyway, is that there's been almost no uptake on paper forms or telephone services or fax. We thought maybe 5 to 10% of people around British Columbia would choose to use those ways of communicating with the tribunal. But so far, out of close to now roughly 3,000 cases, both small claims and strata property cases, with multiple people on both sides of that dispute, anyone want to hazard a guess on how many people have opted out of email? Just throw out a number. You're right in front of me, Anton. How many? 1? Okay, you lowballed me there. It was 3. It was 3. I shouldn't have, I'm going to learn not to ask that question, but 3. So 3 out of these thousands and thousands of disputes. And what that tells us, in combination with the fact that it turns out also about 45% of people are using the tribunal outside of typical court or tribunal hours. So normally courts are open 8 to 4, you go line up at the registry and file your paperwork. 45% of people are using the tribunal on weekday evenings though, and on the weekends. Not terribly surprising, but good to have some evidence that there is a demand to really bring the justice system to where people are and fit it in around their lives and their preferences and their skills and the things that they're already comfortable doing. So, paper forms aren't going anywhere, but a very high demand for online service so far. So really briefly speaking, I wanted to just tell you really what our philosophical approach is with the CRT, because we get a lot of attention for being online from around the world, as Max said. And being online when you're doing anything in the justice sector is pretty exciting because so few things are online in the justice sector. So it's a bit of a low bar to meet to be really the shiny new toy on the block. But in my view, using these online tools is not, we're not doing that for its own sake. I mean, I don't worship at my computer. We're doing that because our overarching goal is to bring the justice system, which is often confusing, expensive, and time-consuming for people to use, taking that justice system, bringing it to where people are, knowing that they have a context, that they have jobs and families and community obligations, and that people come with a bundle of attributes, some skills, some limitations, some challenges. And so using technology is one of the ways that we bring the justice system to people, but it's not the only way. The other really important way that we bring the justice system to people is by focusing on early consensual dispute resolution. So our process assumes that with the right support, you're going to be able to reach an agreement about your dispute. And then we save the adjudicated piece of this. The adjudication is where a tribunal member like me comes in and makes a binding decision. We use that as the last resort, and we use it sparingly. So what you would experience if you had a CRT claim is that you would go to our website. There's a little snapshot there. It's meant to look quite friendly. We can go through it, and the feedback we've had is that it doesn't look like a typical court or tribunal website, which I take as a compliment. Nothing more need be said. But it is meant to be very easy to use. Everything's written at kind of a grade 6 reading level because we know that generally speaking, that's where you have to aim to reach the broadest number of people in Canada. And what you would do is use what we call the Solution Explorer first as your first step. The Solution Explorer is a very simple question and answer system that's free to use and is anonymous, and it's meant to give people plain language, legal information about their strata problem.